searches of online portal NewsClick over a foreign funding case. The searches were conducted at over 100 locations in Delhi NCR and Mumbai. The raids were carried out based on a case which was registered on August 17 under the UAPA Act. Media portal NewsClick is accused of criminal conspiracy and raising funds for terror attacks. During the raid, cops seized electronic evidence including laptops and mobile phones and took data of hard disks. CPIM General Secretary Sitaram Yechury's residence was also raided in connection. It is believed that one of the employees of the NewsClick portal stayed at Yechury's residence. A team of Delhi Police and Mumbai Police carried out searches at activist Teesta Setalwad's residence. It was believed that funds received by NewsClick were diverted to Teesta's firm. Earlier, an investigation by the Enforcement Directorate also revealed an alleged fraudulent infusion of foreign funds to the tune of 38 crore rupees during a short span of 3 years. And NewsClick is accused of using these funds for spreading Chinese propaganda in India. Now, the central government maintains that agencies are free to carry out probes if anyone has committed any wrong. But the India bloc has strongly condemned the raids on journalists linked to this news portal and have alleged that the BJP government's, quote, coercive actions are directed only against those who speak truth to power and not against those who spread hatred or divisiveness. So are the raids on NewsClick journalists and the portal itself justified or not, given the investigation and what it has revealed so far? We'll take that question to our guests in just a bit. But let me first break down exactly what this case has been and the funding and the agencies or the firms associated. So NewsClick is accused of receiving funding from various organizations who have alleged links with American businessman Neville Roy Singham, who is himself accused of funding organizations to spread Chinese propaganda. Take a look at the money trail, at least as far as the ED probe is concerned. So the Enforcement Directorate has claimed that there are these 5 organizations that they have identified who have quote-unquote invested money in NewsClick in a span of just 3 years. These companies are eventually linked, some of them, at least Worldwide Media Holdings, according to the ED investigation, is linked to Neville Roy Singham, who is believed to be a Chinese agent, and also with Chinese emphasizer of CPC China. And then, of course, there are holdings like the Justice and Education Fund, INC GSPAN LLC, Tricontinental Limited Inc. based in USA. There's also Centro Popular Demidas, which is based in Brazil. Now, NewsClick is believed to have received all of this fund, and through NewsClick, it is alleged that money went to characters like Bhima Koregaon accused Gautam Navlakha, to the CPIM IT cell, which is the political party CPIM's IT cell, and also a company called Teesta Associates, which is a firm linked to Teesta Setalwad, an activist who's already been under investigation for the Gujarat riots probe, etc. Let me also show you exactly what has happened as far as the day's raids are concerned. So there are multiple places, as I mentioned, as many as 100 locations that have been raided. There are multiple individuals involved. Of course, the likes who have run the website in the past are part of this. So this raid has been conducted by the Delhi Special Cell. Remember, this was a case of UAPA Act registered in August. NewsClick allegedly received funds from China illegally. That's the basic premise of this entire investigation. The Delhi police has questioned NewsClick founder Prabir Purkhayastha, and several NewsClick employees were also grilled after being raided, or at least some of their electronic devices have been taken in. Now, CPIM General Secretary Sitaram Yechury's house, interesting, was also one of those locations that was visited by the Delhi Police Special Cell. And it is believed that one of the NewsClick employees stayed at this residence linked to Sitaram Yechury. And it is also believed that the employee's son actually works for the CPIM, the political party. After raids, the Delhi police has seized a smartphone and also a hard drive, we are told, from Sitaram Yechury's residence. Over to Mumbai, where Teesta Setalwad's residence also came under the scanner, because Teesta Associates, as I mentioned, has allegedly received funds from the online portal. Now, Tricontinental, which is a firm that I mentioned earlier, is a firm that has actually published a few articles on this news portal. And it is believed that Teesta Setalwad is the director of Tricontinental Institute for social research. So this is how all of these individuals are connected. Now, of course, raids of such kinds invite a lot of public scrutiny. They have invited a lot of journalistic scrutiny as well. Some media organizations or journalist organizations have come out and condemned these raids. But I also want to point out what government is saying via sources. So a brief outline of how the government has justified this action. They are saying the government that this case is not about freedom of speech as some may make it. This is purely about sovereignty of India. The fact that NewsClick funding is connected to China is an assault on India's sovereignty, so the government is justified in doing what it's doing. That so-called journalists are alleged to have been paid by China or China's linked firms to push Chinese propaganda is another reason why this is justified. It's important for the agencies right now, the government says, to secure evidence and go to the root of the matter. And for that, they need to look at every record, also to prevent tampering or destruction of evidence, as in this case. The biggest question really that's being debated all across the country, certainly in media, journalistic circles and political circles today, is based on all the facts we know in public. Is the government justified in probing NewsClick?
No notice at all, no prior information at all. They just landed up in the morning.
देखिए, मुझे जस्टिफाई करने की जरूरत नहीं। अगर किसी ने गलत किया है तो उसके ऊपर जांच एजेंसियां काम करती हैं।
BJP is scared of real news and BJP से simply like run away from the real facts.
तो हम पत्रकारिता के साथ खड़े हैं, पत्रकारों के साथ खड़े हैं और इस कदम की कठोरतम शब्दों में निंदा करते हैं।
Let's go across to the guests joining us. Tom Varakan is from the BJP, Adil Singh Boparai of the Congress Party joining us. Professor Dinesh Vashni is CPI leader. I'm also awaiting one more guest to join us, but let me begin with the ones that are with us. Professor Dinesh Vashni, I want to begin with you. The government says that this isn't a matter about what the portal had published per se as far as the government is concerned. This is more about foreign funding, and foreign funding that hasn't been disclosed as it should be, and foreign funding which is linked to inimical forces or sources, as in this case is coming out. And they believe that the fact that this is a media portal or a journalistic endeavor does not make you immune to any such probe. Why do you believe that this is some sort of vendetta?
Look, Shivani, this is a vendetta. I tell you how. They say, the government of India say that it is endangering our sovereignty. Will they specify any case where the sovereignty is endangered by the NewsClick or those journalists, those hard disks or computers has been taken away by early morning today? Neither Urmilesh nor Avishar Sharma nor Bhasha Singh nor other journalists, those who have been raided, or Sitaram Yechi are involved in any of these cases ever. A second thing is, they say Chinese propaganda. Let government of India explain what is Chinese propaganda the NewsClick has done. NewsClick has always had a very honest research on the various topics. The government of India lies on various data. They have a very good research team. They make a research and then they give the news. What is wrong in that?
The wrong aspect in this is, I'll just elaborate a little bit more on the second point that you're raising. The wrong aspect is that apparently a lot of those coverage was being funded by Chinese linked forces. There are some mail trails to suggest that. The bent of those news reports seems to be more questioning India versus what is Chinese propaganda. Don't you think that that is something that should come under the scanner? The very fact that they've got funding from China which was not disclosed, don't you think that in itself invites a probe?
First of all, I do not know about this funding aspect. If it is there, let the ED and the government agencies interrogate. But this is no way to every time you say UAPA, every time you apply UAPA blindly. And second thing, let the BJP out its sources of funding from China. Let the political party funding be under RTI.
Okay.
Then the BJP will come to know that they have received a fund from hundreds of Chinese firms. Hundreds of Chinese firms, not one or two.
But how do you know that if it's not
Second thing I would
disclosed?
like to know. No. People, there is a news among the people. There are the journalistic informations. What are you talking? It is there in the, even in, if you go to your newsroom, you will also find the correct facts. Second thing is, always those journalists are being targeted, those who give meaningful news in favor of the society. Those journalists are not targeted, those who spread hatred, communal violence, communal hatred and communalism.
So I want to come back to the first point you raised before I go across to some of our other guests as well. Deshratan Nigam is an advocate and leans towards the RSS, is also joining us. You also mentioned that what are these reports that bring the sovereignty of India under question? But don't you think that it is important to wait for the investigation to conclude and then ask for what proof has been found? Ultimately, obviously, the proof is going to be found after investigations are conducted. Don't you think you should hold your horses at least till that time, till they make their case, even either by way of a charge sheet or some other disclosure?
Certainly, Shivani, let me make it very clear.
Sir, no, sir, that was for Dinesh Vashni. Deshratan Nigam, please hold on. Let Dinesh Vashni finish that. I'll come to you in just a bit.
Look, Shivani, we are holding our thing. Let them put their charge sheet and we will answer to that. We have to follow the land of the law. We will follow the land of the law. We will follow the land of the law.
You say we will answer that, but why should you answer that, what the charges are? Let news portal, NewsClick answer that.
NewsClick will answer that. NewsClick will answer that, but the journalists, those who have been targeted, are against the government of India because they are giving the facts. And now government feel that they are enemy because Modi ji false propaganda has been captured caught by them and it been revealed to the people. They are following is more than the BJP IT cell medias, IT cell lumpans.
Okay. Tom Varakan, please respond to that. Two questions that Dinesh Vashni is asking. One, on what basis are these raids being conducted? And there seems to be a pattern is what he's suggesting, I'm paraphrasing, that only those journalists who speak against this present government and dispensation are the ones who get any raids.
Shivani, there was a slip of tongue by Professor Vaishnav said, we will. There's something linking them, you know. I mean, just to mention in the passing. Now, this gentleman who's the founder, Prabir, NewsClick founder, he says he has exported material. I don't know what a portal is exported and in what capacity they have exported. For which, in return, they get about 28 and to the extent of 38 crores. Now, please tell the ED to begin with, what did they export that they got this money? News portal has nothing to export. Okay, you're part of a news agent, you are part of a channel, and there's nothing you export. And
don't you know the journalists send their article to foreign newspapers and have money for that? Money directly come through official channels.
No. What do you export?
Don't you know this thing?
This is a simple question I'm asking you, Professor. You export something as educationists and you get huge money, you get say 38 crores in your account.
Even if I send my article, to a foreign magazine, I have been paid for that by the foreign currency in the official channels.
Come on, Professor
What are you talking? And
you
we also pay to them if they print their thing.
More than $1 lakh. Come on, give me a break. Professor Vaishnav, you have written
it's a common practice all over the world.
If that is the export you are doing and you get in return 38 crores, ED has a right to question. Now, and let me complete. 1.5 crores paid to an electrician. Come on, give me a break again. 1.5 to pay to an electrician. I mean, I don't know what kind of electrician he is. Now, these figures are figures that are tantalizing. The ED has a right, and who are the people who are routing this money?
Okay.
You have one gentleman who's already in jail, and it is also associated with that is Gautam Navlakha, the Alagar Parishad case, Maoist link in the Bhima Karogan case. He's being interrogated.
No, I think, Tom Varakan, the fundamental point that I think Dinesh Vashni is making and many others are asking is that even if you were to get funds from a foreign source, why do you need to be investigated under the UAPA Act? If this is purely a case of foreign funding or non-disclosure of a funding or incorrect disclosure of a funding, why do you need the UAPA Act in that? Shouldn't the government justify why they needed that?
They are propagating Chinese narrative, creating a narrative in this country that which is against the national security.
Tell what is the Chinese narrative? Please tell Chamak that import from China during Modi ji has doubled. That is the Chinese narrative, and what is the Chinese narrative? But I can please tell, let the government of India and you speak to the people of India. What is Chinese? Let CNN ask you.
CPI, which does not even have a seat.
What is Chinese narrative? Tell me now, what is Chinese narrative? Please tell the people of India to CNN News 18 what is Chinese narrative with the NewsClick has propagated, or Abhisar Sharma or Umesh or Bhasa Singh or Anandyo has
against our country.
Anandya speaks only on economic matters.
Vashni, please, I think you had your time. Could I please request you to please hear and listen to the rest of the guests? I don't really want both of you to be speaking at the same time. Tom Varakan, please finish 30 seconds. What's the justification for these raids?
We have a security issue. The Chinese narrative is now being used as a propaganda material to incite, create problems in our country. This is a national security issue.
Okay. Let me go across to Adil Singh Boparai also. The fact that the ED investigation suggests, at least at this stage, that some of the money they received via sources which are linked to Chinese agents was also then diverted to some other forces. Some of the names are in public domain, some others may be found. Doesn't that in itself bring suspicion on a news portal? Why is a news portal even engaged in this kind of fund receiving and forwarding?
Please do not confuse and confound BJP with India. BJP is just another political party like dozens of other political parties in this country, point number one. Point number two, the BJP appears to be allergic to free press. The BJP appears to be allergic to journalists who seek accountability. In contrast, they want propagandists to masquerade as journalists. The BJP does not want journalists. The BJP wants doormats. The BJP wants peddlers of hate and divisiveness in this country. The BJP does not want journalists to talk about price rise and unemployment. The BJP wants journalists to spread hatred and create fissures in society. Point number three, there is a pattern to this madness of the Bharatiya Janata Party. There have been raids on Bharat Samachar. There have been raids on Dainik Bhaskar. There have been raids on almost more than 15 to 20 media houses. And what we are noticing today in this country is that the BJP wants to control dissemination of information. And the first step to do so is to ensure that their corporate cronies control media houses. Because when the BJP's corporate cronies control media houses, they control what the public watches.
Okay.
So
Adil, you didn't answer my question. I get your point. You didn't answer my question. If there are funds that are being received from sources of the kinds that are coming to light, and those funds are also alleged to have been transferred to other certain set of people, is that not a matter that should at least be investigated? And can the fact that this is a portal, a media portal, make you immune to such an investigation?
Companies like Xiaomi, Huawei and Oppo had contributed funds to the PM CARES. So by your flawed logic, the ED should also investigate PM case.
No, but these are not companies who are registered companies of the sort. Some of them have been found to be shady companies, shell companies.
So what is, do you know the threshold for UAPA? UAPA is the anti-terror law.
Yeah.
Even if there is a foreign exchange regulation, you don't bring in UAPA. The objective is, and it is crystal clear to every objective person in this country. I'm not talking about the blinkered lot. It is clear to every objective person in this country that the government wants to send a message. Stop asking us questions. Stop seeking accountability. Play to our tunes and become our mouthpiece.
Okay.
You will prosper if you do that, and if you don't do that, we will send you to jail. This is the message.
Tom Varadkar, since there's a charge against your government one more time, I'll give you a minute to respond to that, then I'll go across to Deshratan Nigam as well.
Will this gentleman from the Congress party tell us what was the MOU that he signed with China? Tell us clearly whether
Tom, you
this
were in the
funding
Congress
is part-
then. You were in the Congress
this
then.
part of the
Weren't you in
funding
the
has
Congress
come
then?
to support
When did you
this.
switch over to
Are
the BJP this
are
year?
you saying your Chinese connection, your embassy visits, your dinner, candlelight dinner with the Chinese ambassador, and the trips to China, and the kind of offences you have used against the armed forces are part of your Chinese venture? No, come on, answer that question. What is the connection?
This is the problem.
There
You
is
don't
a connection,
want
and that
media
is
houses to
why
ask you
the
questions
rule
on your
has been
governance.
enacted. Because
You
it's
want to
people like you,
proliferate
it's
nonsense and
people
vulgar
like you
allegations.
who have
Make
created
scandalous allegations.
Okay, can I just come in?
Ridiculous allegations with no basis
the way
in
we
law.
acted. Please tell us what the
problem is
MOU
somebody has
was.
to
Why are
hold-
you scared of
somebody has to
explaining
hold the
that?
BJP
Why don't you explain that?
But
What
all
was
agencies at your
that
base-
MOU?
Can I just come in? First of all, I would
Please
request if
come in.
panelists don't speak over each other, but can I just come in? It is not like NewsClick was one of the biggest names as far as online news dissemination is concerned. Secondly, it's hardly the only one in our MyRight news publication businesses in India that are questioning the government or have been very critical of the government. So Rajat Sethi, political analyst, is also joining us. Rajat, just give me a minute. Let me go across to Deshratan Nigam as well. The charge is that this is somehow to muzzle free press. Deshratan Nigam, do you think that pattern fits, that question fits as far as NewsClick is concerned? Because I mean, I don't think that it was the premier news organization or a news portal in the country. There are several others who've been very critical of the government.
Well, Shivani ji, for the first time I've heard about NewsClick. Let me tell you, let me be very honest with you. And therefore, it probably, if I am not aware, the millions in this country were not aware of this website. Because I come on TV debates, I scan the internet and then, come to the debates. Now, let me tell you, China's known position is challenging India's sovereignty and integrity, which they have done in the case of Arunachal Pradesh. They do so by recognizing Jammu and Kashmir, a Pak-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Hence, the challenging India's sovereignty and integrity becomes a part of the UAPA Act, which is covered under the Act.
No, but Deshratan Nigam, in this case, they'll have to prove that the website was somehow also propagating that. What China's position is very clear. Here, the fundamental question is that somehow this website was promoting attack on India's sovereignty.
See, let me tell you one thing. This is the information that the government of India has. They have not disclosed anything and they should not disclose anything at this stage because that will compromise the investigation. Any criminal lawyer can tell you worth of salt that these information should not be in public domain and it will come in the charge sheet as many co-panelists accept that, and to say that NewsClick has specifically, targeted. There are so many, websites, so many, news portals which have been doing, critical of government. They have not been targeted. Why this? And the two panelists have been clearly, trying to defend that they should not, because one is a communist and other has an MOU with the Communist Party of China. So let us be a non-political in this. Let the agency do their work, put everything, all the evidence in the charge sheet before the court, and then let the court. This is a country.
Mr. Vashni, I'll come to you, please. I request you, please do not do this over our other guests, please. They were quiet when you were speaking. Rajat Sethi, I want to come to you. There are two important questions here. One, is getting funds from someone who may be linked to someone else, even foreign government, fundamentally something that should be acted upon? And the second question that opponents are raising is, why did you need a UAPA charge against this website? Don't you think the government has some explaining to do on that?
Shivani, these are two very important dimensions to the whole question. The first thing is that, taking money from China, that is clearly morally absolutely corrupt. There can be no two debates on this topic. There can be no two sides on this topic. It's as crystal as daylight. Having said that, there are a lot of, covert operations that our adversaries internationally do all the time. Covert operations don't happen wherein you just send a check to somebody and you write a to-do list that this is what you want to do. In lieu of that, I'm paying you money. There are frontal organizations which are specially created to act as a fronting body through under the garb of which you send money from outside to have certain nefarious agendas, certain things to be peddled within the country. And this is where the investigating agencies will have to come up with more evidences to build an airtight case, wherein NewsClick might just be a fronting cover skin, a website skin, basically. And deep down, all the people who largely are being accused of anti-national activities might be doing something nefarious in the garb of that. It might as well be peddling an agenda which suits certain anti-national elements within the country. It might suit certain insurgents. It might suit certain Maoist agenda in the country. If these two dots are linked together, it might present a very ugly story. And I think this is where NIA and the other organizations would be building up a case against these journalists, or rather, I don't even call them press or journalists. These are YouTubers who stepped out of their role of being the fourth pillar of our country, but acted as if they were ready to demolish the other three pillars of our country. So I personally, I have deep suspicion. I have worked in the northeastern area for a fair bit of years, and I know how these so-called, the agents of press, so to say, have tried to act in very, very nefarious ways and means to destabilize our country wherever there are fault lines within our nation.
No, first of all, we have to agree on one thing. Your profession cannot be an immunity to your other actions. And I know that there are some journalists who have been either raided in the past, and mind you, that hasn't happened only in the last 10 years. It has happened earlier in India too. And the profession and if it is linked to funding, if it is linked to some other activity, your profession cannot be a cover. But the opposition, of course, claims that this also only happens to a certain set of journalists. Yes, Adil, I'll come back to you. I have limited time. Let me just go across to Dinesh Vashni as well. Mr. Vashni, fundamentally the question is, Adil, I'll come back to you. Dinesh Vashni, fundamentally the question is this. You've got to explain your funding. If eventually NewsClick is able to explain its funding, what it did with that funding, was that funding appropriate, where did that funding eventually go to, whose hands were exchanged, then eventually they can make their case. But at this stage, why are you pronouncing them innocent? Let the agencies do their job.
Look, let the agency do their job, but let the agency also do their job against those journalists, those who are dividing the country every day, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., by raising the Hindu-Muslim bogie, by raising the communalism, by raising the...
Sir, aise nahi hota na, you can't just file cases on people that you don't like what they're saying. Discussing a Hindu-Muslim issue, which is an issue that comes up in our country, is not a crime. You can't just jail people for that. You can't equate that with foreign funding.
Shivani. Look, Shivani.
Yes.
If there is a foreign funding, the NewsClick has already explained to the agencies earlier when it was raided in August. They have explained to them. All this is being done now because the Modi ji is feeling a heat of defeat in next coming 5 state elections.
And so they decided to raid NewsClick.
New York Times published this to help.
Obviously, because NewsClick is giving a very credible data against the failure of the economy in the country.
New York Times was handed Modi.
Yes, Adil, I'm coming to you. I'm extending a few minutes because we have an extra guest. I'm coming to you. Adil, just be patient. I'm coming to you. Rajat, very quickly make your point, 30 seconds.
This entire thing came to surface because of an independent New York Times investigation. Are you trying to accuse that New York Times had a grand strategic planning along with Prime Minister Modi? to surface NewsClick? What interest did they have? Please understand, this is as objective and as clear as it can get.
Adil,
Don't try to defend the indefensible.
Adil.
Now, please, just hold on, please. Now, your spiel is over. To borrow a phrase from one of the earlier speakers, crystal is daylight. The government of India, PM CARES Fund specifically, has taken donations from Chinese companies. Is that not morally repugnant to Mr. Analyst on your program? Number one. Number two, the BJP wants a pliable media. The BJP does not want a media which is willing to ask them pertinent questions on their governance record. Number three, this is not something which is new. You're right to this extent. For a change, I'll agree with you, Shivani. You are right. Tyrants and despots world over use the media as their mouthpieces. They want to silence critics. They want to silence dissent. So this is a playbook. This is a playbook for fascists. And I am not surprised. This is likely to continue further.
Okay, I'm just trying to restrict this to the fundamental debate of what this website was doing, what the allegations against it are, and I'm not convinced that just because they wrote a few articles critical of the government, which are dime and a dozen in our very vibrant and thriving media scene, is what has attracted their attention to NewsClick. I don't think that is the case. I'm not convinced of that. I'm not convinced of that as the headline argument as far as NewsClick's
You're not a
defense is
judge.
concerned.
I can express my opinion. Neither are you.
Sure, fair enough. Sir, 1 second.
I can express my opinion.
Let Tom Varakan come in for 30 seconds. Last word to Deshratan Nikam. Yes, Tom Varakan.
Well, I'm surprised that the evidence is right on his face. There's a dictation from this gentleman called Neville Roy Singham to write an article based on issues which are being part of the Chinese narrative. And the maps that came from China and that was passed on by this handler to this particular portal are clear indications of trouble that they were creating.
Okay.
And the whole objective was to disturb Northeast and create a situation. These are evidences.
Yeah, the agencies will have to prove that was indeed the trail and that was indeed the intention. No, the money trail has to be explained. I think we can all agree on the fact that the money trail cannot be wished away. If there are funds that have been received illegally, they have to be explained and it has to be explained where they went. I have limited time.
Take money from Chinese companies and you don't want to refund that money back.
Party
Please
also.
answer the question. Come on. At least
money. And 38 crores has come to this portal.
To refund that money, return that money to the Chinese. Return that money to the Chinese. Don't get hysterical. Return that money to the Chinese. Return the money to the Chinese companies.
Okay, 1 second. 1 second. Can I just come in? Both of you are not audible. Rajat, I think Adil made a point on what you said about PM Fund also receiving money from Chinese company. Should that not be morally reprehensible as well? One by one, Adil, please, I'm taking your question to the other guest. Let him respond. Yes.
Shivani, Chinese government was not paying PM CARES. It was companies who were operating within India and they were doing business within India. They were the ones who were doing it. So please let us get out of it. We know what Rajiv Gandhi Foundation as a think tank in the garb of think tank took direct money from the Communist Party of China. It was a direct money transaction. Here companies who are operational within bona fide limits of the Indian ambit of within the India's economic structure, they were operating here. They were the ones who made the the donation. Fine, there can be moral issues with it, you can return it, but this is an absolutely third-grade bizarre argument that you can come up with, trying to give a shield, an intellectual cover to these intellectual.
Okay, I've run out of time. I do thank all of our guests for joining us. We'll of course see where this investigation goes, and of course the agencies will have to make their case in a court of law. I have to slip into a very short break. On the other side, we'll get to the other big political war that has broken out after the opposition demanded a caste-based census for the entire country. This is on the back of Bihar releasing the figures for their census for OBCs.
Brought to you by when it was parking in front of the Gurudwara and they asked the High Commissioner to stop and go back. We could see in those videos when the driver was about to open the door for the High Commissioner, but because of the threat and intimidation by these Khalistani goons, he gets back to his seat and turns around and goes back. Meanwhile, we also see that Vikram Doraiswamy, the High Commissioner, tries to lock the car from inside and stop them from opening the car door. It was quite a threatening situation. India raised the issue with the British authorities and the Foreign Office of UK. What happened next was that another Khalistani protest that was planned in front of the Indian High Commissioner in London. But this time, the British officials were pretty alert, and there was some security measures that was also implied there. A barricade was put on the outer perimeter of Indian High Commissioner building in London, and the High Commissioner's building in London doesn't have a huge or long campus that will stop any passerby from entering or kind of attacking the building. So it was a barricade on the pavement that was put there, and the Khalistani protesters were kept on across the street. So on the other side, they kept on chanting and Indian slogans, silently threat and intimidation tactics for the Indian diplomats. But that is something that brings to the fore the issue of entire Khalistani nexus, which is kind of being allowed to operate in certain countries like Canada, UK, US and Australia. These are 4 countries where issue of Khalistani terrorism has been very vocal and kind of threatening for Indian diplomats. In the recent past, India has raised the issue with all of these countries, while Canadian authorities, for obviously a reason, domestic political reason, they were reluctant in acting against these terrorists. We have seen some assurances coming from Australian government, US also saying that they will look into the issues of Khalistani terrorists and they do not support any violent group in the name of freedom of speech and expression. London authorities also has given assurances to the Indian government, especially ever since earlier this year when some of the Khalistani members tried to breach into the building of London High Commission. One of them also pulled down the Indian Tiranga and tried to disrespect it. In the scuffle, one of the diplomats was injured as well. So it became kind of a very flared up situation, and UK authorities did realize the fact that there is a clear threat and violence and intimidation from these Khalistani terrorists, and they are no more just a social or political activists trying to raise their voice for some cause. They are real violent extremist agents, and there has been some sort of security that has been extended to the Indian diplomat and Indian communities also there. But despite all these, we continue to see a rise in threat on social media. Various platforms of social media are also trying to propagate Indian diplomats as a part of India's larger conspiracy or larger network that is kind of doing extrajudicial things to these Khalistani terrorists. In fact, the Indian High Commissioner Vikram Doraiswamy's name was also put on a social media poster, and he was blamed for the killing of Hardeep Singh Ninchar earlier this year in the month of June in one of the Gurdwara in Surrey in Canada. And these are the tactics that we have also seen happening in Australia, where the High Commissioners were threatened and intimidated by these Khalistani terrorists. So clearly India has raised the issue with certain authorities, but we'll have to see how much of these countries are actually going to work on the ground to stop and check these Khalistani agents from going ahead with this their terror and threat activities against Indian diplomats, because the issue is now very flared up with Canada in the background. UK authorities also needs to keep a check on these Khalistani violent agents, or the bilateral relationship will clearly have a repercussion, as we have seen a huge diplomatic face-off that is already going on between India and Canada, and Indian government is not taking the entire allegation or entire blame game or diplomatic game lying down, and that could very well be the case with other countries as well, if these countries or these elements in those countries are not kept under check by the authorities or the administration in those countries. As India-Canada bilateral relationship is very much on the downhill because of the Khalistani issue, when Canadian side has alleged that Indian agencies' role were behind killing of Hardeep Singh Ninchar, a dreaded Khalistani terrorist whom Canada thinks that he was a political activist. Now another front in Khalistani terrorism has opened in London as well, when Indian High Commissioner Vikram Doraiswamy was stopped from entering a Gurudwara in Glasgow. He was there to take part in several cultural activities, and he did meet some of the eminent personalities there also. And one of the engagement that he had was to go to the Gurudwara in Glasgow, where He was supposed to take part in the langar, and he was invited there by the Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee there. But somehow 2-3 people from the Khalistani sympathizer group, they got to know that Indian High Commissioner is reaching there, and they rushed there. They tried to disrupt the event inside the Gurudwara also, and then they rushed out at the car when it was parking in front of the Gurudwara, and they asked the High Commissioner to stop and go back. We could see in those videos when the driver was about to open the door for the High Commissioner, but because of the threat and intimidation by these Khalistani goons, he gets back to his seat and turns around and goes back. Meanwhile, we also see that Vikram Doraiswamy, the High Commissioner, tries to lock the car from his side and stop them from opening the car door. It was quite an
Welcome back. Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched a scathing attack on the Congress today after the Bihar government's caste census results were declared. He's accused the Congress of trying to divide Hindus for electoral gains. Remember, the Ritish Kumar-led government in Bihar on Monday released the findings of its caste census months ahead of the next general elections. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi hailed this move and has asked the centre to also give rights based on the population of each community. Soon after that, other parties of the India Alliance have also joined the chorus. They have been demanding, and they've upped the demand for a caste-based census nationwide. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi posed several questions to the Congress and other opposition parties backing this line, the representation depending on population. For example, he said, and I quote, that there are poor people who are the biggest abadi of this nation. This is in response to Rahul Gandhi's Jitni Abadi Utna Haq statement, and that poor have the first right over India's resources. He reminded the Congress party that if we go by their logic, Hindus are the biggest in number, religion-wise as well. So, will they remove minorities if this diktat was to be followed? He also targeted the Congress party and said that the Congress aims to run India by dividing Hindus. Now, interestingly, there was opposition to Rahul Gandhi's call for Jitni Abadi Utna Haq, even from senior Congress MP and advocate Abhishek Manu Singhvi, who questioned this rationale, but his tweet was later deleted after Jairam Ramesh of the Congress party said that this was his personal opinion. But what had Abhishek Manu Singhvi tweeted? He tweeted that equality of opportunity is not the same to equality of outcomes. So it's important to give everybody equal opportunity. That doesn't mean that they'll all be as successful. People endorsing this should understand consequences, that this will eventually culminate into majoritarianism, because those who are higher in number will have a greater voice than those who are lower in number. And certainly, you cannot argue against him. So the big debate that's coming up on Plain Speak is this. When you push for a caste census, is this really for social justice, or could this actually end up bringing in majoritarianism? Let me go across to our guest joining us. Nikhil Anand is the BJP spokesperson. Bhavya Narsimhamurthy is from the Congress party. Dr. Sunil Singh of the JDU and Sandeep Ghosh, political commentator, is also joining us. Bhavya, let me begin with you. The Prime Minister has added to some of the questions he has posed to Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party. One is that if you go by numbers alone in the population matrix alone, then there will be only those who are higher in number who will have a greater voice, including groups like Hindus, and others will actually get marginalized. So when Rahul Gandhi says, Jitni Abadi Utna Haq, that is not the kind of democracy we follow. Is that not a faux pas, a wrong move on the side of the Congress party?
You know, the very basis for social justice is of giving equal opportunity based on the number of people there are. And every needs to be represented on this table where, you know, the decisions are made, right? Whether it is power or distribution of resources, it should definitely be based on, you know, each community, because there are many communities who have been suppressed for many years.
But wouldn't this also suppress those who are lower in number, especially the tiny minorities in the country, because their population is not too strong?
You know, when BJP sees this caste census, they're seeing it in terms of religion. We need to see caste census in terms of caste. Why would you see a religion, Hindu and Muslims, and then, draw such conclusions?
I'll tell you why. You're right. The caste census is going to be about
reservation.
Bhavya, the caste census is going to be about caste. You're absolutely right about that. But it's about extending that logic. If everything in society is proportional to population, then one could argue then it should also be based on religion. It could also be based on other factors. It will not remain limited to caste. Yes?
When it's about numbers, right? It's always about numbers. Whether you take reservation for that matter, whether it is, that's an affirmative action. We have given reservation based on numbers. We have to take these, various policies, anything for that matter. It has to happen after a proper research, after a proper census, after a proper, understanding. There should be logic. Without proper census, how can you form policies?
No, you're not answering my question. If affirmative action, one second, Bhavya, affirmative action or reservation in India, as they are generally done as, are limited. They are not based on the population number, right? They are also capped. That is how they work. Now, your argument, one second, please listen to my question. The Congress's argument is that everything should become equitable to what your population is. That becomes majoritarianism. Because then the larger populated groups will say, we should have the larger share of what you're dividing.
When it comes to caste, how Mr. Gandhi has portrayed it is totally different from how you're interpreting. Let me tell this. A community might be higher in number. For example, SC or STs or OBCs. But they are the communities who have been suppressed for a very long time, and they deserve a table. They deserve a chair at the table. And deserve equal opportunity, or whether it is a proper share of resources. When it comes to social justice, we need the numbers to make sure we take the right decision. But to take this statement in this sense and saying this becomes a majoritarianism would be very wrong.
It could become. That's the fear that some are raising. If you go down this path, that you only get your share dependent on your population's number in the population, it could go down the path of majoritarianism. And when you say they should get equal share, what exactly are you talking about? What are those spheres of social life where the Congress believes that the population should decide how much you get? Is it in terms of jobs? Is it in terms of education? Is it in terms of representation in parliament? You need to specify that.
So now that whether it is power, whether it is jobs, whether it is any opportunity for that matter, for the growth of a society, of a community, everywhere the people should be represented. And that's
so that's not equal opportunity. That's not equal opportunity, because equal opportunity is that anyone can fight. Equal outcomes is what you are deciding, and those outcomes also you are saying should be based on the number of population. So then there will be a certain number. No, by that logic, you're exactly defining majoritarianism. If those in power and their background is going to be associated with which group they come from, that's majoritarianism.
No, that's not. See, if you are seeing in terms of religion and you want to talk about majority and minority, that's not the whole discussion here.
No, majoritarianism doesn't refer to religion alone. But why can't I extend this argument? Why can't I extend this argument to religion too? But let me open this up. Let Anand Kumar come in. Anand Kumar, how do you see this demand that is now raising in the country that not just Bihar, other states should also come out with their caste census, should divide their resources accordingly, and there should be a nationwide census as well. Now, this is particularly seen to be an issue that all India Alliance members have joined hands on, and they're seemingly mounting a lot of pressure on the BJP on this.
Yeah, are you asking me?
Yes, Nikhilji, go ahead.
First of all, I want to mention that what happened to 2011 caste census. It was the Congress party which sabotaged the whole caste census process of 2011 after wasting 5,500 crore rupees. And Congress has never been pro to social justice. Fortunately or unfortunately, caste is the rugged reality of Indian society. But there are two perspectives of looking at caste differences. One is the casteist perspective, and second is the community development perspective.
Yes.
BJP views it as a samajik samrasta, show equality among all. And that is why, through different schemes, Prime Minister has tried to do. You see that Vishwakarma, PM Vishwakarma Yojana, it is going to cater the interest of more than 50% of the population of OBC community, which Bihar has counted at 63%. And I want to say that this caste census is also reflected that Hindus population has decreased by what 1.5%, but Muslims population has increased by 1.5% ratio. Another thing is that you see there are many castes and communities which has not been represented adequately. Recently, BJP sent one Dhanuk community member, Sambhu Saran Patel, to Rajya Sabha. He belonged to Dhanuk community. That was never represented in Rajya Sabha.
But fundamentally speaking, Nikhil Anand, fundamentally speaking, is the BJP in favor of a caste census, at least a census, and those numbers to be made public or not?
You see, this Bihar's caste census process, it was initiated by the NDA party. Twice the resolution was passed in Bihar Assembly. We were the part of the government. The delegation which went to meet the Prime Minister and all party meeting was held. We were the part of it. My point is that we are apprehensive about the proper conduction of caste census at nationwide because there are many castes which consist in OBCs, EBCs in Bihar. The same caste is in ST in Bihar. There are many sub-castes within that particular caste. You see Brahmin. Brahmin is an upper caste. But Bhat and other, Giri, Goswami, they comes under OBC community. In the same manner, you see the sub-caste of Kurmis considered in North India. Hanuk is in EBC, and we see, and most important example I want to quote, that Valmiki, they are in ST, but in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, they are in OBC.
Okay. So you're saying that
till the time we don't find any modalities to conduct a comprehensive and extensive caste census at a nationwide, we will not go just because Congress has already failed the caste census process in 2011, wasting the 5,500 crore.
Okay, let me go across to the JDU's Sunil Singh as well. Sunil Singh, the Prime Minister of the BJP, also says that this is nothing but an attempt by the opposition parties, including yourself, to divide the Hindu spectrum of votes that the BJP under Narendra Modi had started getting. And he was obviously getting a lot of OBC, SC, ST votes as well. This is nothing but an election gimmick purely for election gains. It is not really for social justice. Sunil Singh.
If this is the way he sees it, that is all he can perceive through it, and that is his political philosophy. JDU's political philosophy and Nitish's government philosophy is development with justice, or you may call it inclusive development. That means ray of development to reach to the marginalized people. We give a hand-holding, and they come into the mainstream. That was the plank.
But sir, hand-holding does not mean, I come back to the fundamental point I'm discussing, equal opportunities should be our basis. It does not mean equal representation on the basis of population. Now, don't you think that it would be harakiri in a country like India if you decided who should get what share depending on the numbers of population alone? First of all, merit, where does that go? Secondly, that will mean that bigger population numbers get the bigger share. That would be completely opposite to social justice.
That might be second stage. Today what will happen is, like, when you know the socio-educational and economic status of all the castes, that way when you plan your welfare schemes and welfare policy, you concentrate on that in that particular area, on that particular caste. And that is the way for their upliftment. That is the main thing to be seen right now. And about that political this thing, jitni hissedari, that will come automatically when these things come into the real this thing.
But right, it will push for reservation. Oh, sir, I'm sorry to press on this. Fundamentally, this caste census is being asked for so that reservations can be decided on the basis of this census. If you already do reservations, then it's not the next stage. And it will already make sure that the larger population groups get the larger share. You're not answering that question.
Look, being pro-poor doesn't mean that we want to eliminate politics and everything. This is a matter purely Nitish Kumar did it after the due consideration with all the political parties.
Okay.
So that it's a matter of so that it is a matter of development of state and the nation. And when it comes to development, it should be inclusive development that includes the opposition leaders also. There was an all-party delegation who met Prime Minister to insist on the caste-based survey, and there was everything because all
No, I'm
today
not.
also.
I'm not focusing on how many people support this. I'm actually fundamentally focusing on this is the right path for India. Sandeep Ghosh, what do you think? I mean, obviously social justice has to be the key of any government and its programs for any country, for that matter. But could you start dividing resources just on the basis of the population matrix? Would that lead to majoritarianism, as some are suggesting?
Shivani, thanks for having me on your show after a long time.
Thank you.
First of all, I think what the caste census reveals is not a state secret. If people had an approximate idea, you may not know the last decimal point, people had an approximate idea about what is the composition of caste in various states, society. I would like to ask Mr. Singh that for how long has Bihar had an OBC and backward class chief minister? Did you require statistics to come out today to say, according to that, I'm going to formulate my policy as how to look after people of the backward caste? For as long as my memory goes, I have been having chief minister. That is really a sham. Now, when the point of majoritarianism was made it very well, basically one majoritarianism, alleged majoritarianism with something else. The problem is electorally, as you are saying, people have considered BJP to be a Banya Brahmin party. So they think that they have been able to take these other people to their fold through social engineering, and by doing so, you'll be able to dissect it. Bigger question, Shivani, is whenever you are having any statistics for that matter, which is needed, your question is, what do you do? There is a purpose, you get some numbers. You don't get numbers just for the heck of it. Now, what I'm hearing people say is that they are going to distribute the existing cake in different slices. But that's not the solution. You have to increase the size of the cake, and so that people get a larger share. And how do you do that? When you talk of affirmative action, it is not just providing jobs, providing quotas in the parliament. Affirmative action is if you know this section of society is backward, how do you uplift them? Whether it's through education, whether it's through healthcare, you focus that. And that's where the whole issue about Sabke Saath, Sabke Vikas, I'm not quoting a BJP or Narendra Modi slogan, but that is what should be talking about. Shameful. Whichever party you want to talk, they are for ages, and today, as if they didn't know what is the caste, they suddenly need the caste census to be able to decide on policy.
So
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, so one, you're saying that anyways you know the composition even if it's not on paper, and secondly, what are you going to do with those numbers is the interesting question. Are you going to start putting a quota in parliament? That's not affirmative action. As Abhishek Manu Singhvi said in his tweet, which is now deleted, equal opportunity is not the same as equal outcomes, and this is the most fundamental debate all over the world when it comes to social justice and affirmative action. India needs to be very wise in what road it chooses, and also if you keep harping on caste, you're not actually erasing caste differences, you're actually pronouncing them even more. Is that the path we need to take is a question. I've run out of time. I do thank our guests for joining us, but this is going to be a very interesting issue to watch out for. As I leave you, I also leave you with images of the World Culture Festival that was organized in USA, where over 1 million people gathered for a global celebration of cultures, faiths, making a noise for peace. Thanks a lot for watching.
Shasya